sexy. Alright, so Dan's car is back again. This time it is getting a Magnum T56 with a spec twin disc clutch. Obviously we had to get a drive shaft for it and everything else. It's a Stifler's cross member and anything else that's needed to put the Magnum in his car. Now I will put a link to the playlist on the channel with everything else that we've done to this car, which includes a full FTBR rear ends. We did a ported blower. It has Viking coilovers on all four corners, which I'm not sure we have video footage of. And a handful of other things like a twin 465 pumps, an FC3 fuel pump controller, regulated return. Just got a lot of good stuff. It's a super great base for when he finally puts a huge blower on it. And until then, it's just an awesome E85 ported blower Cobra. But today we're putting a Magnum in it, and I think Dan's pretty excited to no longer have a slipping clutch.
Oh yeah, that would be nice. Completely different.
Well, I hope we make this Magnum swap look easy. As of right now, aside from unbolting the trans from the bell housing and loosening the H-pipe, we are ready to attempt at removing. We're getting pretty close though. So we gotta take all the harness down. This is for his wideband. He still has like pretty much stock exhaust on here. So, but he does have a dual wideband setup, one on this side, one on that side, with the factory O2s right in front of him. Everything in here feels good. The clutch was adjusted a little too tight, which may actually be the reason for the slipping clutch situation, but that's okay. We're gonna have to He-Man this thing out. That's gonna be a good time.
Oh,
all right.
I was hoping it's an input shaft, that's why.
Oh, like it was worn out?
Yeah, something is.
That factory Ford clutch hanging on for its dear life though, that's for sure.
Yeah, right.
All right, well that wasn't actually that bad. If the Magnum goes back in as easy as that came out, this will be a very successful weekend.
Supposedly it needs a little massaging, we'll see what happens.
Where? On the floor?
Yeah, here.
Nice.
We shall see. For some reason it doesn't look like it, but who knows. Alrighty, so, well, we got her all down. Bell housing is obviously already off. There's the flywheel. She's done some heat into her, that's for sure. She's pretty torched. Oh, you can see, you can kind of see, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of clutch material in there too. Here's the clutch. Leave it like that. One side is down to the rivets. The other side still a little bit more life. You can see the groove still. And the pressure plate still has all the grooves in it. Very interesting, but they both got hot, that's for sure. So, shelled on for a little bit, but probably, like you said, it was probably a clutch adjustment issue as well, which caused a premature failure. But there she is. We are replacing this stock T56 with a level 6 Magnum from RPM Transmissions, which is carbon blocking rings, billet shift pads, and micro polishing on the gears, which is the benefit of a level 7 or level 6, sorry, versus a factory T56 Magnum. And I also spec'd it out with a 0.5 overdrive versus a 0.63, just for cruising in 6th gear, since that's just highway anyway. I'm not gonna do any pulls or any bullshit with that. So that's what we did. Obviously, flywheel bolts with some ARP hardware, and yeah, so it's going pretty well, I would say. Maybe, what do you think, an hour in, hour and a half? Yeah, about an hour. Not too bad. So far, so good. So now we're about to take the pilot bearing out. It's not normally how we do it, but we're gonna give it a shot. That's what everyone kind of raves about, more or less.
Bread or grease? We usually use the bread, but we're gonna try the grease.
We shall see. Well, attempt number 1 did not go as planned. She's still in there.
Just making a mess.
Guess back to the drawing board. Back at it again. Oh, it looked like she was moving. Looked like she came out a little bit.
We're getting there.
Yeah, it looks like she cracked the hair. Boy. Oh, bingo! She gone.
Grease and paper towel.
Look at that, there's a pilot bearing right there.
Yeah. That'd be a pilot bushing, I think.
Yeah, I guess that was true. No more bearing left in that little thing. Well, as you can see, kind of worked. I mean, it wasn't just straight grease, but we still got her out. So, on to the next step.
I see blue, and he's glorious. All right, anyway, back working on the Cobra project. This is blue. This is the clutch. This is a, I think it's a spec. Yeah, it's a spec twin disc billet. It's really nice. And we actually went against our own advice and bought a clutch used. But this actually came out of the white 1,000 horsepower Cobra project before it was swapped to a 4L80 and had a Magnum T56 in it with this, and it did not get many miles. You know, 300-400 miles on it, I think is all it really saw. There's tons of materials on the pads. Looks like it's getting nice even wear on everything. So I don't think we're gonna be too worried about using this. But this is the twin disc setup, so you got 2 friction plates. Then you got like a transfer middle disc, another friction plate, and then another clamp. So you got all sorts of clamping force, all sorts of friction material, all sorts of awesome. So anyway, that's that. We have to run to the house to get a 26 spline clutch alignment tool because I don't have one here. Which, the way that this works uses a step flywheel. So it has to use its own independent flywheel, which has like a lip machined into it so the whole thing could sit. And this is marked to make sure that everything goes to this point. Whether that was John who did that when he put it together, or if that was Spec who balanced match balanced the whole thing together, that would make sense. So we got ARP flywheel bolts going in it. It's at where it's gonna go. And then it's got a quick time scatter shield or bell housing going in it. So this is the monster plate that's gonna be used for that I dearly hope doesn't intercept with this Maximum Motorsports cross brace, but it should be okay. Now let's see the real goods. Bam! There's the QuickTime bell housing. We actually bought that with the clutch. But here is the tranny. Whoa, she's pretty. So just some general comparisons. It looks like the front half of the case is the same as the regular T56, so we shouldn't run into any clearance issues there. This one looks like it has an optional pump in the front for input shaft lubrication. I believe that's what that's for. But otherwise, everything else looks pretty similar there. Now the tail shaft is where there's a lot of differences. So the speedometer pickup is on this side, but it looks like it can be relocated. So we're gonna move back to this side, which is what we need. Then it's got a plug, we're gonna switch, flip-flop those. The shifter is much different. Tail housing and output shaft is longer. You know, so these are lined up in the front, but this one's about an inch and maybe about an inch longer. And larger. You can tell on the ends of this. That one's smaller, this one's bigger. This one's got a larger output shaft. So that's that, looking good. Now we got a T56 to put on the shelf. we got a couple of nice transes just sitting around doing nothing. Then we got, he also, part of this spring update is all new brakes. These are Stop Tech rotors, front and rear, just slotted, and Hawk HPS pads. So we're gonna get those on here as well. Anything else we're doing for the spring tune-up?
Drive shaft loop.
Stifler's drive shaft loops, and it's already got Stifler's cross member. And that's about it, huh? Nothing major. Nothing major. Oh, let's show you the good stuff. Oh yeah, baby. Look at that. Down to the rivets on this side, or down, heat it up. Needless to say, she's had a rough life. But the disassembly went extremely well and smooth, so we're hoping that the reassembly goes just as smooth. So far, the only main difference is we got the trans and bell housing out with the H-pipe still in the car. No way that's gonna work with the Magnum and the bell housing, mainly because of no fault of the trans. But since we're making a bunch of noise, I'm gonna get back to work. Give you guys an update here in a minute. Housing is in, the clutch is in, flywheel's obviously in, and we're gonna throw the H-pipe in it to make sure that we can get it in around here. This is gonna be a tight spot. So we wanna make sure we get that in before we put the starter in case we have to use that cavity to move the H-pipe around. But that is what's gonna happen next. And once we have the H-pipe in, I think we're gonna try to get the trans in it. Right? That sounds about right. And Dan's working on taking the brakes apart, which is a good time. This one wasn't really even working very well. I mean, we have an explanation, but it's a long story, so we're just gonna leave it at that. What's up, guys? We have the transmission. We've had it in the car a couple times, actually just once so far. And when we were pushing on the clutch, we were just moving the clutch fork, and it seems to bind up in the area of which that we think, you know, it's gonna disengage. So we had it in the car, we took some measurements, and since this question comes up all the time about putting a different transmission in, switching to a twin disc clutch, and the question is, well, how long is your pivot ball? Does anybody know how long the pivot's supposed to be? So we've done this in multiple cars, and we kind of do it the same way every time, which is figure out where it engages and disengages, and then make sure that there's nothing causing a binding issue, which with the stock pivot ball that's on it, it felt like it had a binding issue. So just show you guys how we did this one. So Dan actually ordered a Lakewood adjustable pivot ball, but for comparison's sake, take the clutch fork off. This is the factory one that came with the Magnum. Now, we were starting to play with this. I'm gonna take this off because this actually came on here. But when you compare these side by side, if I can get it evenly, there's actually, the factory one is a couple threads longer. So what we decided to do is actually get rid of the Lakewood one, and we're just gonna use the jam nut that it came with and just kind of turn this one into an adjustable one. And what we're looking for, this back on, this back on. After doing our measurements to kind of abbreviate this a little bit, the clutch fork was at like 3.5 inches from the transmission where it was disengaged. So when we took some measurements, when the stock pivot ball was in there, that left the throwout bearing just under an 1/8 inch below the end of the bearing retainer. So that was our goal location. However, with the stock pivot ball, it was binding way before then. You could feel it right here. It didn't want to slide any further easily. So what you're gonna end up with if you left it that way, you're gonna end up getting a lot of wear on the bearing retainer, and it's gonna continue to get harder and harder as they start to kind of almost bond together, because it's gonna get rid of any kind of grease or lubrication that you have. So now what we've done is we've just adjusted the pivot ball while moving the clutch arm until we got to a point where it's not really binding when it gets to the end of that. And we're shooting, we know it's gonna be a hair short of that, but we're kind of shooting to have a little bit extra swing and still be smooth, which feels like about there, which is like where Dan had it. Now, just to be cautious, Dan, feel that. Is that about what you were thinking? Or is that
a little far, a little, go in a little more.
Okay. Try that.
Plus, keep on.
And you really want to keep it as short as possible because you want to have as much thread engagement into the transmission as possible. So Dan actually did this the first time. So I want to make sure he feels the resistance because that's what, to keep the control the same. So right now it doesn't really start to bind at all until the very end of the bearing retainer,
right here, yeah.
Which we know is about or just over the disengagement point of the twin disc clutch that's in it. So we're good there? So now just for safety's sake, we want to see where that ended put us. So I'm going to try to keep these together. There we go. Take them all together. And we're going to end up with 4 threads. Now for a bolt to have its full strength into its mounting location, you want the width of the bolt as deep as the threads, and that's almost exactly where we're at. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna Loctite this, we're gonna put it in, we're gonna use the jam nut as a lock nut, and then that's gonna be our new adjustable pivot ball. So the reason now we went with this instead of this one, in order to get the same length, we would have 1.5, almost 2 threads left. We wouldn't even be able to achieve this. So even though you might be in a hurry to order adjustable pivot ball, we'll put the part number on this one in the link below because this one's too short. So we could suggest maybe a longer one, but this is for a spec twin disc, the billet line that they have, not necessarily for the McLeod also, but figured that will show you guys how we do the adjustable pivot ball and make sure that we have a smooth sweeping action on the clutch so you don't have a hard pedal at the bottom or at the top, or you don't have any kind of sticking and slipping issues. Anyway, we're gonna get back to putting this transmission back in the car. We'll show you guys an update once it's all mounted. We have big wins going on, ladies and gentlemen. Big wins. Trans is in, that's a big win. Bell housing's in, clutch is adjusted great. Dan is tightening up the Stifler's trans cross member. By the way, if you need Stifler products, hit us up. But Stifler cross member, drive shaft loop, everything fits really well. This light is making my picture all weird. You guys can see fine without it. All right, anyway, drive shaft loop is in. It's got the Magnum swap drive shaft with billet flange on the back. That's all in.
Oh. Drive shaft shop.
My drive shaft shop, baby. And if you need anything pictured in this video, please hit us up. Special thanks to RPM Transmissions. If you need RPM transmission stuff, make sure you hit us in the DMs. If you need Stifler's products, make sure you hit us in the DMs. If you need a drive shaft shop component, hit us in the DM, because we are using all products that we represent or are dealers for. So if you need any of the stuff that we did in the swap, just hit us up. Find us on Facebook, Streetcar Media and Performance. Just hit us on Facebook, Streetcar Media. No. Hit us on Facebook if you need any of the products shown in this video. Streetcar Shenanigans Media and Performance is our business page. You can message us what you need. We'll get you some pricing because we are dealers for everything that we put on this car today. Anyway, so we're pretty much wrapping up the driveline now. We're putting the exhaust on, and then we got to knock the brakes out really quick and bleed them, which is going to be quick and easy. And that's pretty much it. Fill it with fluid.
Oh, yep.
How's it feeling? How you looking? How's it looking?
Feels great.
Nice. She's gonna be nasty. She's gonna be nasty. I mean, the fit is really good. And scatter shields look so nasty with the...
Yeah, we don't really have the clearance a whole lot either, if at all.
Yeah, it's a little tight to the floor right here. We might end up hitting that with something. But that's the only place. I mean, and it's got all poly mounts, so it's like, that's really not even that bad. Because it's not gonna move much. This side's got room for days. Alright guys, she is back together and running. Magnum's in, all the driveline stuff we saw is on. We changed his overflow tank. Charlie from the VMP car actually gave it to us, so it went on to Dan's car. So far so good. Oh yeah. Run it through the gears. Now we're just gonna run it in the air. through all the gears, make sure it shifts fine, make sure everything gets lubricated, and then we'll put her down and call it a night. What's that, clutch in? First impressions?
So far so good. Didn't really do much, but
I mean, in the rain, you couldn't really test it, huh?
No, kind of sucks, but it's okay. She felt fine.
But the clutch was good.
Here, but
yeah.
It feels nice and. But yeah, everything felt good.
Sweet.
Other than the slop in the rear, but that's not what we already had before. So.
Man, all this hard work, and now the viewers have to wait to see doing something fun because it decided to rain on us again for like 17 days straight.